Hi, I'm Stu from Hive Automation and welcome back to the Hive. Happy New Year for 2025. This is our first video back in 2025 and hopefully we'll be doing a lot more videos this year. In this very first video for 2025, we'll be taking a look at the new Switchbot Air Purifier Table. As always, we'll take a look around the outside of the box, we'll get it out of the box, we'll get it set up, and then we'll explore the native app and see about connecting it with other smart home systems as well. And we'll also see how much cat hair we managed to gather since I turned it on last night. So while I roll the intro, why don't you take a moment to subscribe and hit the bell icon to get notified when I release new videos. While you're at it, if you like what I do here and you want to support the channel, there's some affiliate links to smart home gadgets that you can buy for your very own smart home, including the Switchbot Air Purifier Table in the video description below, and you can support the channel at the same time. Or you can support the channel directly through my Buy Me a Coffee link. Of course, those affiliate links and my Buy Me a Coffee link can all be found on my website, hivemindautomation.com.au. With all of that out of the way, let's get started. So a few weeks ago, just before New Year's, Switchbot reached out to me about reviewing some of their new products for 2025, including the new Switchbot Air Purifier Table. And of course, I said I'd love to review the products. Now, it's worth mentioning that there's not just the Switchbot Air Purifier Table, but there's also a version without the table on top, although it does still have a round white plastic top that could double as a bit of a table, I guess. According to Switchbot, both of the air purifiers are specifically designed to help beat floating pet hair, and this table variant includes a Qi compatible wireless charger to charge your Android phone at 15 watts or your iPhone at 7.5 watts while it's sitting on the table. So this could be a great option as a bedside table or an end table in your living room perhaps. And it includes an RGB LED ambient light which can either indicate the air quality or be set to a color of your choice. The pet-friendly carbon filter makes the air purifier effective at removing pet smells, cooking smells, secondhand smoke, moldy smells, and body odor. And the HEPA filter helps to remove particulate matter like dust, pollen, mold, and dander. It features an air quality sensor, a PM 2.5 air quality sensor to be specific, to automatically adjust the airflow when needed in auto mode. There's a fragrance diffuser as well to add essential oils for a pleasant smell throughout the home, which I thought was an interesting point of difference from other air purifiers that I've seen. And I'm told by Switchbot that with an upcoming release of the Switchbot app, the Switchbot Air Purifier and the Air Purifier Table will gain direct Matter support, allowing you to connect the air purifier directly via Matter into Apple Home or other smart home ecosystems without needing to use something like the Switchbot Hub that I have behind me. Now, throughout the setup and testing, I noticed that I'm running Switchbot 9.6.1 and I can't find the Matter configuration settings for the air purifier table in this version of the app. So I'm guessing that it may be in an upcoming point release of 9.6. In the interest of full disclosure, I do need to let you know that Switchbot kindly sent me this air purifier table at no cost to me. However, I am going to give you my honest opinion on the device itself. If you're interested in getting one for yourself, I will be putting a couple of links in the video description, and if you use the Amazon link there, you'll also be supporting the channel at the same time. The Switchbot Air Purifier without the table has an MSRP of $219.99 US, $269.99 Canadian, £239.99 in the UK, or €239.99 Euro. And this Switchbot Air Purifier Table with the tabletop, including the wireless Qi charger that I have, is a little bit extra at an MSRP of $269.99 US, $299.99 Canadian, $299.99 in the UK, and $299.99 euros. And it's currently available from the Switchbot official website or Amazon in the US, UK, Canada, and Europe. Unfortunately, it's currently not available in Australia, but I have reached out to Switchbot to ask, and while they've mentioned that there's no current timeline, they didn't explicitly rule it out. So here's hoping that that changes. That said, until that changes, I'm sure you could order from the US, UK, or EU and use an adapter for the power cord, which I've had to do in this case here because I've been sent the European version. In terms of prerequisites to use this table, there's really not much. It's going to connect using 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi, so you'll need a 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi network. There's a Bluetooth 4.2 module in there as well. That Bluetooth module comes into play while we're pairing the unit by making the device auto-discoverable by the Switchbot app, and it's also going to come into play when we're able to then pair with Matter. To get access to all of the features, you're going to want the Switchbot app on your smartphone, and Bluetooth also needs to be enabled for that pairing to work. Now, obviously, this is a larger smart appliance than I would normally review. So instead of heading to the unboxing bench, I set up the unboxing here on the dining room table to take a look around the box and do the unboxing. To make looking around the box a little bit easier, I popped it onto a Lazy Susan here, and I've also got my iPhone camera to take a closer look at the label when we get there. The box is pretty basic with some white screen printing of a wireframe of the table and the Switchbot word mark, and not a lot else other than some fragile markings, but I did think it was interesting that there's a lithium battery warning sticker placed on it for shipping. To my knowledge, this unit doesn't contain any batteries. However, Switchbot did show off the Switchbot K20 Plus Pro at CES 2025, which is a robot that can both power the air purifier and roam around the house, making the air purifier table mobile, and there's heaps of other accessories that work with that robot as well. This is possibly one of the coolest smart gadgets that I've seen, and I can't wait to get my hands on one to test it out, but I digress. Back to the box now, and taking a look at the red sticker with the product details, we have Switchbot Air Purifier Table, intelligently improve air quality for family and pets, works with Alexa, works with Hey Google, Siri shortcuts, works with IFTTT, and works with SmartThings. It has a PM 2.5 sensor, fast odor removal, super quiet, has a 400 cubic meter clean air delivery rate, 360-degree absorption, and for specifications, it's made out of ABS and polycarbonate. The input power is 100 to 240 volts AC at 50 to 60 Hz. The size with the table is 290 by 420 by 497.5 millimeters, or 11.4 by 16.5 by 19 inches. The size of the main unit is 250 by 250 by 497.5 millimeters, or 9.8 by 9.8 by 19 inches. It weighs 4.8 kilograms or 11 pounds. It has an operating temperature rating of 0 degrees Celsius to 40 degrees Celsius, or 32 Fahrenheit to 104 degrees Fahrenheit. And for connectivity, we have 2.4 gigahertz Wi-Fi and Bluetooth 4.2. There's some compliance data there, the Switchbot website and support email, and some compliance logos. With the outside of the box out of the way, let's get it out of the box. I started by cutting the tape on the top of the box and opened it up to find some paperwork right on top, starting with a quick start guide and a handful of manuals in various languages. As far as I can tell, the languages included here are Dutch, or Netherlands, German, Italian, French, Spanish. We've also got some regulatory compliance information in a little booklet, a safety information booklet, and of course, an English user manual. The user manual has some important information about the filter life and maintenance processes, as you can see here from the PDF I'm showing on screen. Reaching back into the box, we find a bag with a screwdriver and 4 small self-tapping screws. And then we also find the power adapter in here, and it's got a nice braided cable cover. And you'll notice that this is a European 2-pin wall wart plug. Output rating is 24 volts at 3 amps for 72 watts of power, and it's got a barrel jack for input into the air purifier. There's some more paperwork in here. We've got the limited warranty card, and then we've got the support card with some social media links on the front, and then the Switchbot support model outlined on the back. Now we can take some styrofoam packing out of the top of the box, and we'll pull the tabletop out of the box here. The finish on the table is quite nice. It does appear that the wood grain is a vinyl wrap. It's definitely not real timber. And there's a nice silicone ring right above the Qi charging ring, which is a nice touch to help grip your phone into the right spot and make it a lot harder to knock it out of alignment accidentally. On the underside of the tabletop, there's the diffuser for the LED ambient light, and inside the collar, we can find the LED connection cable. Putting the tabletop aside, we can then pull the air purifier unit out of the box, and we'll pop the box aside and pull the plastic off the unit here. I found some shipping tape around the edge of the filter cover that I needed to remove, and I decided to just take a quick look at the bottom of the unit, and I noticed that there's a connector there for the Switchbot K20 Plus Pro robot that we mentioned earlier. And there's a nameplate with some specs and some other details here as well. I popped the unit back on the table, grabbed the tabletop, connected the power cable, and then placed the tabletop into the connector ring at an angle, and then twisted it to lock it in place. Taking a look at the quick start guide, it tells us that we also need to install the screws. There's a screw hole in either side of the collar that I didn't initially see, but I found those holes and installed those screws this morning. One thing I was a little bit disappointed with though here is that it seems that the tabletop will only go on one way, which does mean that the positioning of the Qi charger isn't necessarily ideal with where I want to put it. At this point, I then laid the main unit down on its front so that I could then pull the filter cover off. It's held in with some magnets, but they're quite strong, which is quite nice. Once the cover was off, I was then able to slide out the filter and remove it from the plastic bag. The filter has a fine mesh pre-filter on the outside to catch pet hair and large particulate matter, and it's held on with Velcro, so you can peel that off and then vacuum it separately if you have quite a lot of pet hair stuck on the outside of the pre-filter. Just inside the pre-filter, there's the HEPA filter, that's the white one on the outside, and on the inside, there's a carbon filter that is going to help with removing odors from the air. With the filter outside of the bag, we can slide it back into the unit, and it does take a little bit of wiggling to get in there because the rubber gaskets are sealing everything up. With the filter back in place, I lined up the tabs on the filter cover and then snapped it back onto the magnets, which probably would have been a lot easier had I stood the unit upright and faced the camera instead of laying a cylindrical object down on a flat surface like a lunatic. With the filter in place and the tabletop connected, I'll clean up a little bit, but before we plug it in and go, I did almost forget something that stood out as a big difference with the Switchbot Air Purifier is the scent diffuser box. It's got a little cotton pad inside the plastic holder, and if I position the table this way, it just slots in the back here, and it's got a really nice latching mechanism to hold it in place as well. With everything together now, we'll take a quick look at the controls on the front. From left to right, we've got the Wi-Fi indicator LED. There's a lock button and indicator LED here with press for 3 seconds for the child lock function. The number 3, 2, and 1 indicator LEDs and a wind logo there indicating the manual fan speed settings that you can use. The power button right in the center. The preset button and the indicators are for auto, pet, and sleep modes. The sleep timer button and indicators for 2 hours, 4 hours, and 6 hours. And the last LED here is a filter life indicator to alert you that the filter needs replacing. So with the unboxing and the physical setup done, let's plug the power in and pair it with the app. So with the unit plugged into power, I'm going to open up the app. Now I had to sign in first, but then once I was at the dashboard of the app, I was then able to tap the plus button in the top right hand corner and then tap add device. The app scans for Bluetooth devices nearby, and the air purifier table is in the list here pretty quickly. So I'll tap that, and after a few seconds of loading, we get the instructions, and we need to power on the device with the power button, and then hold the same power button for 2 seconds until the Wi-Fi indicator LED flashes rapidly. And then we can tap connect device in the app. When we tap connect device, it says it's connecting, and there's a checkbox next to discover device and a progress wheel next to connect device for a few seconds. And then the green check replaces the progress spinner, and we're asked for our Wi-Fi credentials. The configure Wi-Fi page does explicitly state that it only supports 2.4 GHz Wi-Fi. However, in previous testing with Switchbot equipment, it will work okay on a dual band Wi-Fi. I'm going to connect mine to the HiveMind IoT network though, which is a 2.4 GHz only Wi-Fi network that I have set up here. Where this table is going has a direct line of sight to my wireless router, so I'm not worried about any connectivity issues, but in a future video, I'll be looking to bolster my wireless network, especially my 2.4 gigahertz network, with some additional access points around the house. After entering our wireless credentials and tapping next, it's verified the connection, and then we can set a name and the room that it's going in. I'm just going to change the name to Air Purifier Table, and I'll set the room to Lounge Room, and then I'll tap Start Using. We see the dashboard only for a fraction of a second before we're prompted for a firmware update. So I tapped Upgrade, and we were taken to a firmware version page showing the current firmware was 0.8 and the new version was 1.2, with the release note resolved some known issues. So I tapped Firmware Upgrade at the bottom, and while it was upgrading, I decided to test out the Qi charging pad and placed my iPhone on the charging ring, and you can see there that it started charging. So that works quite well. The firmware upgrade only took about a minute, and it was actually a little less than a minute. So I picked up my phone again, and when it said upgraded successfully, I was able to tap Finish, which took us back to the firmware version page, which now showed the current firmware as the new 1.2 version. I backed out of there, and we got taken to the dashboard for the unit itself. So now we can take a look at the app controls, and we can see on the dashboard here that it's on standby. Tapping the power button in the middle of the screen takes a second or two with a loading prompt, and then the unit starts up and the ambient light comes on. It shows the air quality as very good, with 1 microgram per cubic meter detected on the PM2.5 sensor. And we've got a bluish white color in the ring on the app, and also from the LED on the unit. By default, it started up in auto mode, and I had to feel around the vent at the top to tell if it was actually moving some air, because it's really quiet. If we tap the level mode here, we also get access to level 1, 2, and 3. Level 1 is pretty quiet and it's not moving a whole lot of air. Level 2 puts out a bit of a stronger breeze, but it's definitely a bit more audible, but it's not something that you would worry too much about. And level 3 is fairly strong, and it's definitely not what I would call quiet. There's also pet mode here, which is an automatic mode that adjusts the fan based on the value of the PM2.5 sensor. So if there's a lot of particulate matter being detected, it's going to run the fan faster, but it should try to reduce the fan speed when the air is cleaner to try not to disturb your pets. I noticed at this point that there's a little question mark next to the PM2.5 sensor value, and tapping that brought up an explanation of what the PM2.5 value is and how the colors of the LED light map to those values. Tapping Got It dismisses that prompt. And then lastly here, we've got sleep mode, which is practically silent, and it runs the fan quite slowly, seemingly no matter what the sensor value is. Now, personally, I like a little bit of white noise when I sleep, so if I had this as my bedside table, for example, I'd probably even run it at level 2 or maybe even level 3 and be perfectly fine. But it is nice that there is an almost silent mode available. Scrolling further down from the dashboard here, we can see the environmental data, and it did take a second to populate the graph, which then charts the sensor values over time. Moving further down, we can set up some schedules for a time of day, whether we want it to run only once or repeat, what days of the week we want it to repeat on, and then the action of either turn on or turn off, followed by the settings that we want. I won't be setting up a schedule just yet, and we'll back out here. Toggling on the delay here while the unit is on, and we can then set how long we want until the unit turns itself off. Now, it is only a delayed off, not a delayed on. Lastly, we've got the care and maintenance menu here, which shows the filter life left, and entering that menu shows how to replace the filter, and there's a button to reset the filter timer. There's also the pre-filter mentioned in here, and it says to clean that every 2 to 4 weeks. And there's some pictures showing how we can undo the pre-filter from the outside of the main filter and use a sticky roller to clean it up. Backing out to the main dashboard of the unit again, and we can tap the cog in the top right corner to get into our settings. We can tap the name, and then we can change either the name, the home, or the room that it's set up in. Backing out, there's backlight and sound settings, and in here we can set the light to auto, which will turn the light off if there's low ambient light. We can set it to on or off, and there's light brightness with bright, moderate, or soft. I'm leaving it on bright. And then lastly, there's the light color. Now, by default, it's set to show air quality, but we can then also set it to customize and then select from any of the predefined colors here. I do kind of wish that we could set a custom color using a color wheel or something else, but it is still good that we can choose the color to some degree. I will set it back to show air quality though. Backing out, we can see the child lock setting, and if we turn that on in the app, the child lock light comes on the control panel. And pressing and holding the child lock button on the unit itself for 3 seconds, I did notice that I had to back out and then reopen the child lock menu item before it would update. Backing out again, we can go to Do Not Disturb. If we toggle the Do Not Disturb switch on, we can then set a start and end time for Do Not Disturb mode, which turns off all of the indicator lights and disables any sounds during the hours that we set. I will leave that off for now. Back to the settings, there's a menu item for wireless charging, so we can actually turn the wireless charging pad off if we decide that we don't need it. The next menu in the settings is the Wi-Fi settings, and we can see the Wi-Fi state, the IP address, and the wireless network that we're connected to. Then the next section of settings has the third-party services, where we can set up our Amazon Alexa, our Google Assistant, Siri shortcuts, SmartThings, Homey, or IFTTT, and there's also an item on here for Matter. Now it's important to note here that at the moment, this Matter option only takes us to a how-to page rather than helping us to set up Matter, which I believe means that there's still a pending update that I'm going to need before I can configure Matter directly from the air purifier table. Underneath third-party services, there's NFC, where we can set up NFC tags to trigger either turning the filter on or off quickly without needing to open the app. The last section of the settings page has help and feedback, and inside there we've got some links to Switchbot's FAQ page and a form to submit feedback directly to Switchbot from the app. We've got the firmware version page that we saw before, where we can set automatic upgrades up, see the current version of firmware, and if there were any pending updates, we would be able to install them from here. One of the last buttons in the settings page is our device info, and all that does is show us the Bluetooth and Wi-Fi MAC addresses. And the last button on this page is the delete button to remove the device from the app. Now I noticed that there's no Matter setup menu item in the settings here, which, as I mentioned before, suggests to me that we're still pending an app or firmware update to allow direct Matter connectivity to the table, but we can set the unit up with Matter via the Switchbot Hub 2 Matter enabled that we've demonstrated in a previous video. The only feature it exposes, however, is an on and off switch. Switchbot does tell me that we're getting direct Matter support at some point in Q1 of 2025, which means we should also then be able to hook it into Home Assistant with Matter. Now, at the moment, I'm not set up with Home Assistant to connect Matter over Wi-Fi devices. So we'll have to come back to that in a future video after I've upgraded the Raspberry Pi compute module in my Home Assistant Yellow. And then we can take a look at how this unit looks in Home Assistant, and we'll see if there's any more features than what are exposed through the existing Matter enabled Switchbot Hub. So that's our new Switchbot Air Purifier Table. Now I've been running it on level 3 since I unboxed it at around 8:30 last night and set it up to see how much cat fur that we could gather. So right before hitting record, I set up the camera to see what it picked up, and you can see here that there's a bunch of fur gathered on the grill on the outside. I'm pretty sure at one point the cat was rubbing on it and gathered a couple of those tufts there. I just gathered the fur on the outside of the grill up with my hand, and then I pulled the back cover off and pulled the filter out. Now there's quite a bit of fur in a line down one side of the pre-filter there. And again, I just rubbed all of the fur off with my hand to gather it up. I popped the filter back into the unit and then assessed the damage. Now, I think that this is actually quite a lot of fur to pick up in less than 24 hours, considering this was just floating in the air, and there's another air purifier about 3 meters away from where this one was sitting all night. So I'm pretty impressed with how well it has performed. If you're a pet owner, I honestly believe that the Switchbot Air Purifier or Air Purifier Table is going to be a fantastic addition to your home, especially if you have young kids, elderly family members, or anyone in the home with asthma or other respiratory concerns. Personally, I get pretty bad hay fever year round, so I'll be keen to see if filtering more particles out of the living room air helps my allergies a little bit. To pick one of these air purifiers or the air purifier table up for yourself, breathe easier and create a healthier living space, check out the links in the video description to get yours today. I want to say a massive thanks to Switchbot for sending the air purifier table over. As always, let me know your thoughts in the comments section down below. That's all we have for this video, and I do hope that it's helped you in your smart home journey. Be sure to comment below with a home automation idea that you'd like to see me cover in a future video, and don't forget to follow HiveMind Automation on Instagram and Facebook. If you like this video, hit the thumbs up button down below to give it a like, and if you're not already subscribed, please consider changing that now. While you're at it, if you hit the bell icon, you'll get notified when I release new videos. Lastly, if you like what I'm doing here and you want to support the channel, there's a Buy Me a Coffee link in the video description below. Any contributions you make through Buy Me a Coffee get put towards making more and hopefully better content for you to enjoy. Don't forget to check out my website, hivemindautomation.com.au. Thanks so much for watching. I'm Stu from HiveMind Automation, and I'm looking forward to seeing you next time. Bye for now.